Welcome back to the channel. Today we got some more maintenance that we're going to knock out on the F10. So of course we got the F10 behind us up on jack stands. I want to save some time, get that knocked out. But what we have today is we're going to work on the transmission service kit for this N55 2011 F10. So I picked up this transmission kit from FCP Euro. It's a limited lifetime, not limited, but lifetime warranty on the kit. But I don't know the true service history on this car as far as if this transmission has ever been serviced. So what we're going to do is we're going to get underneath here first. We're going to pull off the trays and see if we can't drain the fluid. Make sure that this fluid looks good. And if it does look good, we're going to move forward with a new new filter, transmission filter, and a refill of the fluid. So I'm going to turn the camera around real quick. We'll show you the kit that we picked up from FCP Euro. All right. So as we see up here on the workbench, the FCP Euro does come with liquid moly ATF fluid. It's the Top Tech 1800. And then we actually have a new pan with the filters actually built into the pan, and then a bolt set for that as well too. So this actually should get us taken care of when it comes to the transmission service. So again, looking forward to knocking this out. Like I said earlier, I don't know the true history on my car. When I picked up this car, I picked it up at auction. But if you look at the Carfax or the history report on it, there's quite a bit of service shown on the report. However, it was done at an indie mechanic, and so it doesn't go into details on what those services were. So honestly, I don't know if those services were just oil changes, if some of them were transmission services. Unfortunately, I just don't have that information. And some of you guys might be in the same boat, so I figure we'll go ahead and knock this out together. So I'm going to go ahead and get underneath the car to make sure that we actually, to actually get to the transmission, we're going to have to remove the under tray. So I'm going to start knocking that out, and I will be back with you guys here in just a moment. Okay, so as you guys can see, we got our first engine tray off. Actually, I say our first, that's actually the only one we need to remove. But I have really tight space down here, so I'm gonna try to get you guys the best look I can here, so bear with me. Okay, and just to point out as well, to get all of these bolts removed, that's actually a 8 millimeter socket that's needed. So I just put that on the end of my DeWalt Impact and went ahead and took out all those bolts. That's how we remove this pan, and then we're gonna see what else we need to remove to get access to the drain plug, or the drain and the fill plug actually. Okay, and so here's a quick look underneath the tray. You can see the bottom of my transmission pan here, and we're going to get this removed. As you can see, there's actually, it looks like probably a T30 or so. I will actually put down on the screen what that size is, but we're going to first of all make sure that our fill plug will come out. Once we determine that we are good there, then we will start draining the fluid out of this transmission. Okay, so we moved our light around just a little bit so we get a little bit better access, but as you guys can see, there's a metal tray that sits on both sides of our oil pan. I'm going to use a 10 millimeter socket in my Impact to go ahead and knock those off so that we'll have access to the side of the oil pan where the drain plug is. So we'll work on that right now. Okay guys, again, really sorry about the tight space here, but I misspoke earlier. The drain plug is actually on the passenger side of the vehicle, up near the exhaust. So you can see, I'm not sure if it's gonna show up really well on camera, but right up here is where you actually have the drain plug. Very difficult to access, I'm not gonna lie. So what I actually had to do, it's an 8 millimeter hex socket or hex Allen key to get off that drain plug. I typically would use my ratchet for that, but as long as this actually is, I could not get on there with the access that was there. So I actually had to use an actual Allen key. So I had to get it. This one actually has a kind of a long handle to it, so it actually gave me enough leverage to really crank on there, and I was able to crack that loose. So at this point, I do know that my drain plug will come off. So now all that is left is actually to start draining the fluid out of this transmission. Now that we know that our fill plug is actually functioning there, or is able to break free, now we're going to go ahead and start the process of draining the fluid. So what we need now is a 10 millimeter Allen. We're going to get underneath here on this drain plug, get our pan in place, and we're going to go ahead and crack this loose. Now this drain plug is plastic, so it shouldn't be that difficult to break free and to get moving. And then what I'm going to do is get a little bit of sample of this fluid, just because, again, not knowing how long this transmission fluid's been in here, I just want to know before I actually fill it back up. So we've got, of course, as you guys can see, we're moving, and there we go. We got some fluid coming out. And I'm gonna grab me a little cup, see if I can't get a little sample of that to take over to my workbench. That should be plenty there, just to kind of inspect. And then we'll see if we can't even get this drain moving just a little bit faster if possible. Okay, so the fluid is almost done draining out of our transmission. I've got my sample here of fluid, just in my old Chick-fil-A cup, and it's actually, there's nothing suspended in the fluid, which is definitely a good sign. You can definitely tell that it's been used, and it's probably been ran for, you can't tell the exact mileage on it, but it doesn't really look burnt in a sense, but it does look like it has been used. But the good thing, again, nothing suspended in the fluid. So we're gonna go ahead and finish out swapping out the fluid. So the next thing we're gonna do is we've got to get the oil pan taken down. So that is a T40 socket. I've already got my socket underneath there. So I'm going to start knocking out those bolts so that we can actually drop the remainder of that oil pan and get the rest of this fluid out. So again, our stream has ended at the moment, but we're going to get our T40 socket here, and we're going to knock out the rest of these bolts. So again, T40 here, I'm actually going to start here at the rear of the pan, and we're just going to go around. We're just going to loosen each socket or each bolt, and before we actually remove them all. So that's the process right now. Loosen each one, and then we'll get everything completely taken off. But as we're doing this, you're going to start to see some fluid start to continually drain from our transmission. Okay, so we had to make a quick run, but we're back. We've got basically our cardboard pulled out. We've got our new oil pan ready to go in. The service kit comes with all the new bolts that you need, as well as even a new fill plug. So we're gonna put that new fill plug in. We're gonna start looking at mounting the new unit back up underneath the vehicle. So one of the most important things you want to do is try to get this seated in place. There's the pickup, which is actually, it's got an O-ring on it. And what I was doing here is firmly trying to make sure that this oil pan was seating on that pickup, which it did feel like it was actually just firmly setting into place. So now that I feel that that's done, I'm going to just put in each one of these bolts, try to hand tighten them the best I can, and then we'll start working through a tightening procedure for the oil pan. Okay, so when you're tightening this down, you're really just gonna start on the outsides, just basically hand tightening it, but you're trying to do it as evenly as possible. So you're gonna try a crisscross pattern. Basically, I'm starting on this corner, then I go to this corner, and then I kind of this corner, and then just kind of start working my way into the middle. But just doing it by hand, just kind of getting it to very evenly compress that gasket. And everything looks good from here. So I'm going to now tighten it down. Again, this is not a heavily torqued part. I'm gonna double check my torque specs on this and see real quick, but we're looking pretty good right now. Okay, so we just finished tightening down our oil pan. The torque spec is technically 4 Newton meters. I think I just actually did just 10 Newton meters, and I just basically had to do that by hand. My torque wrench doesn't go down that far. So now we're going to go ahead and start the fill process. I know pretty positive this will not get on camera, but I do have this Harbor Freight transfer pump that I just picked up. I think this thing was probably about 10 bucks. But we're going to use that to see if we can't pump this transmission fluid into the case. And then this again is our cold fill, and then we'll have to get the transmission up to operating temperatures before we can actually verify that we are completely full. So I will try to get as much of that done off camera. I will be using my MHD gauges to actually monitor the transmission temperature. But we will go from there to get that up to the correct temperature. Okay, so I believe we're done with our cold fill right now. As you guys can see here, my Harbor Freight pump didn't work out, so I had to actually resort to a hand pump that I had from the old O'Reilly's pump. I've got basically these 3 and then about a half of another one, so a little over 3.5 liters of fluid have been pumped into the transmission at this point. It is sitting because of the ramps as well as the jack stands, and then you probably can't tell, but I also have my jack underneath the differential there just for extra support. So the car's sitting pretty flat. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and start it up, get it up to operating temperature, run through the gears, and then once that's all been done, then I'll go get back underneath there and top off the fluid, and we should be done with the transmission service. We've got the car started, it's running right now. We've got our gauge, and of course here in our center gauge we can see that the transmission temperature is at 72 degrees, that's Fahrenheit. So basically what we're looking for is between 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. To 50 degrees Celsius is going to be somewhere between 100 to 120 degrees, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what we're waiting on right now. We're just going to let it warm up, and then I'll go through the gears, and we'll see where we're at as far as our fill level. Okay, so just finished up with the warm fill, and that's fluid all over my floor. That was exhausting. So this is one of those jobs that it would be best if you had a lift. Can you do it on the ground? Yes, you can. Do you want to do it on the ground? No, you really don't. So when it's all said and done, I got basically 4 full containers, 4 full liters, and then about a half of another liter of fluid in. And that's probably because I have so much waste that ended up on my garage floor. I probably have, I'd probably say close to half a liter laying there on the garage floor. But beyond that, we should be done. So I'm going to get my tray, my undercover tray back on, and then we'll take the car for a spin and make sure everything is shifting and doing what it's supposed to do. So I'm a little exhausted, but if this is your first time to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. Keep coming back for more content. Actually, and check out some of my old videos. I have lots of things that we've done to this F10, lots of mods, lots of maintenance. But you guys be safe, and we will catch you guys in the next one.